Something that we thought would never be possible, and it is of course so possible today with so many platforms. But the ones that are really pioneering this and bringing about fantastic results, of course, are Twitter. That phenomenon that of course it keeps on growing and growing, and they're reaching out to advertisers, to brands, and trying to engage them in this new concept of real-time live marketing. So what is it all about? How does it play out in reality? To tell us all about it, here's Shailesh, Vice President of International Operations at Twitter. Welcome, Shailesh. And Virginia Pereira with Mastercard.
Can you all hear me? Okay, yeah? Okay, the mic's on. All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you for lasting through what's, I'm sure, been a really fun and enlightening day, but a long day. So I'll try to do the best I can at being entertaining, because I think I'm separating you from drinks and dinner. So hopefully you enjoy what I have to share. We're talking about this concept of marketing is happening now. So the time that you have, the pressure to deliver your promotional message has increased. And a lot of this can be understood by looking at the way media has changed. The way we relate to one another is fundamentally changing between consumers and information, consumers and each other. If you look at this image, you can see that people are commuting to work and they're all reading the newspaper. It's kind of depressing. Nobody's talking to each other. They're all just staring at the newspaper. Of course, there's one person who happens to actually be looking out the window at the world around them. Now that's transitioned. We complained today about the fact that everyone's on their smartphone. You can see what's happening with newspaper as well. So it's it's the same thing, even though it's changed. Here you can see a tweet that talks about, can you really compete with someone's smartphone? And you can see that again in this image, where everyone's just staring at their phone. Happens to be one poor soul who actually is paying attention to the world around them. But it's not that gloomy, actually. The advent of technology is not making us individualistic. It's not breaking up communities. In fact, with platforms like Twitter, what we're seeing is this kind of commitment to your smartphone, commitment to accessing information over mobile devices, is actually bringing people together and creating new communities and allowing us to engage with each other in a way that we never could before. So in a way, it's bringing community back. It's using technology to reinforce humanity. So I'll just step back for a second and answer the question, what is Twitter? How many people in this room have used Twitter or currently use Twitter? Can I just see a show of hands? Okay, it's not bad. 60, 70%. Okay, for those who may not be that familiar with Twitter, and thank you for your honesty, unless you're just lazy and you didn't want to raise your hand. But for those who may not be that familiar with Twitter, let me provide you a definition of how we at the company think about the platform. In some ways, social media to me, I don't even know what that term means. It's a label that was applied to a set of new phenomena that were all introduced at the same time, and we're trying to make sense of them, so we put them all together in the same category and call them social media. The truth is, every one of those platforms are different and unique in their own way. So Twitter, from our perspective, is a communication platform that allows you to communicate in a different and unique way. And there are three characteristics which we think make Twitter unique. Number one, live. The ability to write in 140 characters on your mobile device allows you to express and consume in real time. If something happens in the real world, you can express and connect around it right at that moment through Twitter. So live, real time. The second piece is public. Anything that's written on Twitter is available to the world. Everything is in the public domain. Whoever follows you can see that content, and even if they don't follow you, you often find tweets leaping off of Twitter into the popular media. You'll see tweets on television, you'll see tweets in print. And then finally, conversational. right? So people actually have conversations on Twitter. You'll see someone express an opinion, you'll see someone respond, you'll see someone put forward a point of view, and someone challenge it, right? So this dynamic of a global and public conversation is fairly unique to Twitter. So that is what, in our mind, Twitter is. A platform that allows you to communicate in this very unique way. And the result of that is that every week it's creating billions of moments for people to interact with one another and connect. It could be something as mundane and small as a child's soccer match, or it could be something as big and global as the Olympics or the World Cup, of course, or it could be something national like an election or a natural disaster. It doesn't matter how large or small it is, but all of that is creating moments on the platform for everyone to engage and connect with information and connect with each other. And I'll walk you through some of the more famous moments that have occurred on the platform. Many of these things you may know. Of course, there was this moment during the Oscars, if you saw it, in which the host of the Oscars, Ellen DeGeneres, decided that she was going to do a selfie in the middle of the show. Of course, it's the most famous selfie ever done because it included all these famous movie stars. So this was an authentic moment in real time during the show that everyone interacted with. You may also notice that this selfie, and she did it to be the most retweeted tweet of all time. She actually accomplished her goal. At this moment in time, quite some time ago, there were over 3 million retweets. So that's an indication that people were not only watching the program, but using Twitter, connecting, and then sharing this tweet with their followers and their friends. So it created its own conversation. One of the most interesting things, though, is the tweets flow. They flow out into everyday life. And what you can see here is there were 3.4 million retweets, but ultimately there was as much as 4.2 billion in reach. Because you saw this tweet in every newspaper, you saw this tweet in every television program. Ultimately, the number of people it reached through all the various ways in which it was distributed was over 4 billion people. It's kind of an interesting thing that's unique to Twitter. And I think that's because the nature of this platform is that it's authentic, it's natural, and it's human. It's people wanting to communicate with people about something happening right now that they care about, expressing themselves in a natural way, and allowing you to express yourself as well. And there are other moments that we see as well. Of course, this was during the World Cup. What we did is we created a compilation of tweets that occurred throughout the World Cup. This was a very important moment and event for us as a company because we've always had a really good experience helping people connect around live sports. And there's no bigger live sports moment than the World Cup. So what you'll see here in this video is all the various tweets that we think help make the World Cup more exciting, more engaging, and created conversation. Here we go.
Risalta!
So hopefully that gives you a flavor of the way in which people were interacting about the World Cup with each other in this global community, enjoying this special moment in the world. You saw tweets from famous people, tweets from players to other athletes, tweets from politicians to athletes, normal people interacting with politicians. The entire world coming together, having a conversation about something that they love. And we think the net result of that was a much more exciting and special experience for everyone. And there are other great examples. So, of course, we saw the passing of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, a very famous author and someone beloved in the region. And there are very few platforms where you can see people rally and communicate and express how they feel about an icon in a very public way. So, of course, the White House put out a press release acknowledging his contributions, and you can see actors and actresses and musicians and politicians and other writers and so many different people from a wide variety of backgrounds expressing their love, appreciation, and acknowledgement of a globally renowned and famous figure. It's not often that we have a front row seat to this kind of expression, to this kind of conversation, to this kind of emotion. Human and authentic, global and connected. And funny moments like, I don't know if it was intended or not, but the Queen photobombing these two kids, and probably the most famous photobomb in the world. And you know, these just unexpected, delightful moments that can be captured. You can laugh about them, enjoy them, and they last forever. And moments that say something bigger. So of course, with all the tension in the world and the tension between Muslim communities and Jewish communities and Israel and the broader Middle East, you have people who want to say something, normal people, not famous in any way, but through the power of image and through the power of publishing and distributing this image around the world through a platform like Twitter, they're saying something extremely powerful that is an alternative to conflict and argument and strife. So, every day, all the time, you see these things happening, these moments. Something happens in the world and it sparks a conversation. That conversation includes people from all different communities, cities, cultures, languages coming together, talking with one another, having a conversation. A powerful medium that brings people together in a unique way, for sure. But let's transition and talk about what does that mean for marketers? So we also think that it's helping transform the way marketers communicate with their audience as well. So when something happens in the world, it's not just people talking with one another, it's also an opportunity for brands to have an authentic conversation with people as well and get their message out in a timely and relevant way. And then when we think about brands and how they can interact with audiences on Twitter and how they can capture these moments that happen on the platform, we actually split it into these four types of moments. You have moments that are planned, so we call them campaign moments. These can be most normally it's product launches. You control the timing, you control what's going to be messaged, and you decide how to use the platform to introduce and launch your product. Live moments, so you may be a brand that's wrapping yourself around a live sporting event or a music concert or something else that's happening in the world that can be planned for. Or on the other side of the spectrum, you can't plan and time it, but you know that all the time, every day, people are talking about their interests. Their interests could be traveling, their interests could be food and restaurants, their interests could be running and working out. People have interests, they express them every day, they express them all the time on the platform. So while people may search on search engines using keywords, the language of the way they express what matters to them on Twitter is through tweets and conversation. And you also get these unpredictable moments, whether it's the Queen photobombing two kids, or two people in an embrace, an Israeli and an Arab kissing each other. You can get these unpredictable moments which you have to be ready to capture if it's relevant to your brand. So let me quickly show you some examples of each of these four types of moments and the way brands are using the platform to capture those moments and connect with audiences. So live moments. This is again from the World Cup, and what it's going to show you is a quick video of the tweet volumes during the TV broadcast. The blue line is the tweet volume.
Neymar scores! He has nerves of steel! Julio Cesar now will want to be the hero of the toast! Brazil win in the most dramatic of circumstances!
So that's an opportunity for brands. When a goal is scored, when a goal is missed, how does a brand take advantage of that? Is it relevant to their messaging? We've seen a great job by many brands. One would be Heineken. That was probably the first great example using Vine, which is Twitter's 6-second video platform, doing something fun around the match, playing soccer and scoring a goal with your fingers. And then unpredictable moments, so things that you can't plan for, but you'd love to take advantage of if it works for your brand. So I don't have to tell you about this. The bite heard and seen around the world. And BBC Sports wrote about it and had a fun image. But more interesting, you saw Snickers write this tweet, which I think was great. So some things are more satisfying than an Italian, right? Bite into a Snickers. And then there are campaign moments, like I mentioned. If you're launching a new product, you can use the platform. We've seen a lot of great work by movie production companies using Twitter to promote the launch of a new movie. Here you'll see a TV ad that uses Twitter to promote the dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It's actually really well done.
Now let's take a look at what you thought about the exciting clip from Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
The war has begun.
Planet of the Apes in cinemas July 17th.
I saw that movie on the plane over here, by the way. It's pretty good. But what's great about this is it takes what's best about television and what's best about Twitter and integrates them in a really powerful way. What's television great for? Emotion, big production, beautiful visuals. That's great. But then you don't quite know, has anyone seen it? And if they saw it, did they love it? Did they like it? You don't know. But when you can take tweets about the movie, integrated into your television campaign, you get social validation. Here are people who are saying, I love this movie, I love this trailer, I can't wait to see it. So this integrated campaign we thought was very interesting, something you can do around the opening of a film. Here's another one, which is a fantastic campaign by HP using Vine, which is again the 6-second video platform in Twitter. And there are a number of Vines that are created by different people talking about this computer laptop product, which can fold into a tablet. You'll see the Vines, and then you'll see how they take those Vines and integrate it into a really cool television commercial. That was an Acer, not an HP. This is the TV commercial. Of Vine, you can see the integration of Vine into a television commercial. You can see the promotion of a hashtag, Bend the Rules, because the concept of being radical, fighting the status quo, fighting the establishment, associating the product with that kind of positioning captured in the hashtag, which carried on to a lot of Twitter conversation. And you can even see the integration with other digital platforms like YouTube, trying to drive viewership of this same video on YouTube after seeing it on television. And then you also see the use and engagement of celebrities and athletes to promote products on the platform. Here there's a contest in which James Rodriguez from the Colombian team is offering to give people gold Adidas shoes if they submit to the contest and they win. And here you can see this retailer from the region, Palacio de Hierro, using again a celebrity to engage the audience and invite them to express why they are representing the style of the brand and of the retailer. And so in 140 characters, you're supposed to explain why you are completely in line with the Palacio brand and what the brand means to invoke. So you're engaging the audience to participate, and then you turn around and you give something back to reward those who've done a great job, and you involve a brand ambassador in that process. And then everyday moments. Here, let's talk about commuting, right? So we see conversation on the platform all the time about people who are complaining about commuting. So there's all these different aspects of commuting that translates to all kinds of feelings and emotions and positioning. And then you can look on the platform for conversation and audiences who are talking about commuting. And you can see here Nokia as a brand wanting to connect with people around the concept of commuting and being really packed and confined and not having space in a public commute every day. So again, they use video to try to show you kind of what it feels like to be stuck in a commute. So they wipe away all the crowds so you can sit on the bus. You get rid of that man in the tie so you can sit down, and so on. So concepts like hungry on the platform, you can see here that the volume of conversation is a representation of how we as people think about food. When we think about food, when we don't think about food, we think about it in the morning, we don't think about it during the workday, we think about it again during the night, and the pattern continues. So if you're a brand and you know this, you can time your campaign. In this case, you see Garnier talking about healthy eating in Mexico, and they can time this campaign to the audience who is thinking about eating healthy in the morning during breakfast. Or a concept like running. Again, there's a certain pattern. When do people think about running? When do people want to run? When are people talking about running? It follows a certain human pattern. You can observe the volumes of conversation about running on the platform. And Nike has done a great job using this understanding of communities talking about running on the platform to connect with them. And the result of this is not just that it's cool and it's different, it's sexy to talk about real-time marketing, but what we're seeing is actually it's making a difference. It's working. And the data and the research that we've done suggests that when you use promotions, promoted tweets on the platform, you actually get 20% higher brand consideration by getting it in front of the right audiences. And even more so, over the last 4 years that we've been running this business, we've been tracking this statistic globally. And in fact, it's getting higher, not lower. 1 to 3% is actually low now. But the average campaign around the world is delivering 1 to 3% engagement rate. That means for all the people who see a promoted tweet, 1 to 3% of them are actually retweeting, favoriting, clicking on a video, clicking through a tweet, doing some kind of interaction with the promotion, as compared to traditional display about 0.1%. That's 10 to 30 times better performance because you're using a platform with authentic creative, at the right time, the right context, targeted to the right audience, based on their interests. Quickly about TV and Twitter. So there's a special relationship between TV and Twitter. When things happen on television, second screen conversation on Twitter is now the norm. So capturing this phenomenon, you'll see a really cool ad from Mercedes-Benz in the UK in which they ran a 15-second ad during the X Factor in the UK, and the ad ended halfway through. And they asked the audience to tell them, should they end the ad with the character hiding from the police, or should they end the ad evading the police? And this is the ad that they ultimately showed. So getting your audience to participate, integrating your TV campaign with your Twitter campaign, running them as a combined campaign. What I think is cool about that is that's what marketing is supposed to be. Marketing is not supposed to be about devices. It's not supposed to be about digital competing with traditional. Marketing is about reaching the right audience. And it doesn't matter on what device, and it doesn't matter through what medium. And ideally, you'd like the audience to have a consistent experience. So if you're going to run a campaign, you want it to be integrated. And I think this is a great example of the power of running an integrated experience for the audience, in this case across TV and Twitter. The result of that, not surprisingly, is that we saw much stronger brand association when you saw a message on television, and it was reinforced when you're having a conversation on Twitter. 95% increase in message association, 58% increase in purchase intent, and 27% increase in engagement rates. And we've seen this consistently across the integration of TV and Twitter. So that's all I'm going to share with you now. I'm going to quickly introduce my partner in crime and actually the star of the show. Virginia Pereira is the VP of Digital and Media for Latin America for MasterCard. And you don't have to believe what I told you. Now we're going to have Virginia actually tell you how much of what I shared with you is true and where it might be a bit of a stretch. But I'm really excited to have Virginia here because I think there's no better way for you to understand a new type of marketing, how to use a new platform, than to hear it from a practitioner directly. You can sit down over here and the first question I think people in the room would love to hear from you, Virginia, is just talk about a campaign where you've used Twitter and what your experience was like, good or bad.
Okay. Mastercard, we have a shift on culture on the way that we manage media and digital, because we came from a passive campaign to active campaigns. And one of the channels that help us to deliver our brand promise actually is Twitter, right? We incorporate Twitter to all our campaigns as a pillar to complement what we have in traditional media and also in all the additional digital ecosystem that we have in the region. One of the things that is important about what Twitter can do with our consumers, specifically cardholders, is connect them with crisis moments, deliver to them our promise, our connect people to crisis possibilities. Not only, affluent segments, but also segments that are underserved, segment that are mass segment, that they just have a device, and Twitter is the only bridge that they have to communicate and connect with us. So it's an evolution, it's a journey. I'm saying that we are working pretty good with that, but we still are learning, and definitely is as I said, part of our pillar.
And for you, real-time marketing is important, and what is the role it plays in your overall marketing strategy?
Most of the campaigns, I actually, this year, we sponsor a lot of events in the region and globally. And one of the biggest platforms that we have is called Prices Surprises. Prices Surprises is basically it's an opportunity to surprise our cardholders by delivering goods, by delivering prices, big prices or small prices, where they can feel that being part of the MasterCard family is something important. And Twitter, we have been using Twitter to deliver that surprises in a real-time moment, and we capture that, and also we incorporate as part of our strategy, because it's something that continues refreshing our campaign. We also have recently huge campaign that we developed as part of one of our sponsorship, and we live minutes and minutes what happened in real time, what consumers were saying, and because of the team that we have in the region, we were able to answer each of the questions and comments that consumers were making. So I think one of the most important things that Twitter is bringing to our conversation today is that it's no longer brands delivering content. It's no longer brands, doing advertising. It's changing the picture totally. It's like, coming from fully brand advertising to conversational and human content, organic, that consumers, absorb, adopt, are willing to share, are willing to post, to retweet. So another important thing that we have in seeing in Twitter, or in our campaign where Twitter is an important pillar, is the way that we can bring business, the social media back to the business. Because what is happening is that brands today talk about engagement and how important is getting big numbers about engagement, but also how important is deliver our business proposition to channels that today are important for the consumer. Generate transactions, be able to measure, to generate metrics for the business that touch the bottom line, and we can prove that are not only channels to have simple conversations, but also are channels that can be part of your business goals.
No, I think you've said two really important things. One is, in a world where consumers run the show, you no longer dictate the terms, and therefore a brand has to be where the consumers are when they're there. And that makes real-time marketing almost a necessity, because you can't control the situation. And this is not just something flashy and sexy and new, but something that can contribute to the business and the bottom line, and companies are coming up with KPIs and ways to measure that, which is an ongoing process. Let's talk about some of the challenges, and one of the most common questions I hear all the time when I talk with someone and they conceptually buy into the importance of real-time marketing, but they get a little bit worried about its implementation, and that's specifically around content creation and how do you handle negative feedback. What are your thoughts about that?
Okay, there are two things, right? One thing is the content creation, which, as I said, it has to be, relevant, bright, bold, shareable, right? And important for our consumers. In our case, in MasterCard, we have a huge platform, global platform, that delivers towards passion points. So that means that we always have evergreen content, right? Which is important. And also it's important related to content, think on break down all the barriers and don't think that you have to work with a partner that you have sitting in front of you or close to you. You're close to you, sorry. You can think globally. You can bring to the picture whatever content creator you have. We are working today with a huge global platform that delivers content, that create content related to what we have in our passion points, and we are able to tweet immediately that content to the consumers without taking 2 or 3 days, right? So without taking so long. So, and related to bad comments, as I say, Twitter we open the bridge, right? If we open the bridge, we have to be prepared to manage the conversation, to manage the good and the bad things, and to listen. And when we are able to listen, we have to deliver, we have to answer back, we have to act. And everything is related to a plan. When we run campaigns that are regional campaigns that involve more than 7, 8, 12 markets, and we know that all the eyeballs are related to that campaign because it's an important sponsorship, we prepare in advance. What are the possible questions related to the campaign that will face in real time that consumers can make about our content? And then we prepare guidelines about that. We train more than 13 community managers that we have in the region, to be able to, at the moment that they see those comments, they can, take action. Take that consumer and drive him to the right contact point in order to deliver that action on them, on him or her, in order to, to have a good and pleased consumer with Mastercard.
I think, again, you're saying something very important, which is, and to be clear for this audience, real-time marketing doesn't mean you create and execute in real time.
Right.
In fact, it takes a lot of planning, and specifically a lot of scenario planning, and a real clear understanding of who your audience is. So if you know who your audience is, you know their passion points, you can plan the content around it, so when a moment presents itself, you're ready to execute.
Absolutely. And actually, improvisation is good, as we saw certain pictures, certain tweets. But when we are a brand that delivers also manage something important for consumer, which is their money, right? We open the possibilities for them. We have to be prepared. We have to have a plan B. And we cannot only open a conversation without any plan or any preparation on how we're going to manage whatever conversation came from them.
Now, because we're out of time, we'll jump into the last question. You're in a very interesting place, very sophisticated partner for us. You're moving from using the platform just around big events like the World Cup to now using the platform in an always-on fashion throughout the course of the year. So in the process of making that transition from just doing it around big moments to identifying moments continuously throughout the year that connect your audiences and your passion points, let's leave this group with some concrete feedback, some real-world advice. Talk to this group about how you resource the team to do this, how you handle questions like policy obstacles. What are some processes you have to put in place to actually make this kind of work happen?
Okay, 3 things, right? Related to campaign focus versus always on, we started as a journey, as I said at the beginning. It was a journey, and we started just with campaigns. Then we activated only Twitter in certain moments. Now we're doing both, actually. We are having the foundation with Twitter, always on, always tweeting, always delivering content, but we also have those big events where we, as you show in your slides, where we are fully engaged and fully delivering to our consumers. That's one thing. The second thing about policies and teams, I explained it a little bit at the beginning. We have a huge team in LAC managing digital, because I feel that my partner agency is my team, although I don't have them sitting with me in Miami, I have all their offices and all the teams, in the region, across the region. At the moment that we have to prepare any campaign, we sit together in a call or in a conference call or in a web presence call, and we define how we're going to manage that. In terms of policy, and this is really important, we don't go air with any campaign in social media without having previous conversation and plans with the legal area, with the privacy policy area.
That sounds like fun.
Believe me, amazingly fun.
Yeah.
And we also integrate our global and regional teams. Local, regional, and global. Everything happens at the local level, but we as a region are able to leverage the global expertise as well as to get that down to the market. So I think that it's a journey, as I said. Yeah. And everybody has to pass for that and understand, learn, and to be able to get those learnings and apply for the next one.
Well, thank you, Virginia, for the time. I think it's nothing like hearing directly from someone.
Something else to say,
yeah.
And on Twitter, and this is only my perception, right? The monologue is over.
Yeah, I agree. I loved it when you said that earlier. The monologue is over.
It's over,
sure.
Yes.
And our time is up and we're over.
It's over.
But thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Right, before I let you go, though, I'm going to ask you a few perhaps difficult questions, Shailesh, because I cannot let you go without probing you a bit. Let's talk about Twitter. Very interesting new positioning, real-time marketing, live marketing. But it is a fact that you've been struggling attracting brands, attracting advertisers to Twitter. No doubt you've got the audience. No doubt you've got a wonderful platform. But they tend to be using your platform as a testing platform, not as a destination platform. Are you comfortable with that reality? The fact that Twitter, Facebook, advertisers, ad agencies, brands really just want to test the waters, and it works, and roll it out. Are you comfortable with that? And why is it that you have not been able to embrace full-on campaigns, living and breathing in Twitter itself?
Actually, I'll disagree with the premise. Our business has been growing extremely fast. If you look at our earnings announcements and release, you'll see that, let's speak about international markets for a moment. Our growth, our revenue growth is 167% year on year. And we're doing a lot of revenue as a baseline. So the business is going extraordinarily fast. And every market, so having run international, I've opened every major market around the world for the company. And the amount of demand that I've seen, pent-up demand, when we've launched in every region has been far in excess of expectations. And lastly, bringing it back to this region, Spanish-speaking Latin America specifically, the revenue performance in this region has far exceeded expectations, which is why we've opened an office in Bogota, we're opening an office in Mexico City, we're investing in resources to work in collaboration with our partner in the region here, IMS. So I would actually question the premise.
Yeah, but no doubt, but the analysts aren't questioning it. The analysts are questioning, they had higher expectations of the level of revenue.
The consensus handily last quarter, I would say that's not true either. No, we've seen tremendous demand. We're very excited about the growth in the business. What I will say, and these are why I ask some of these questions, is anytime you have a new technology or bringing new technology to a market, there is a natural need for education. And so one of the burdens that we have as a company is, how do we educate the market at scale? How do we educate our agency partners at scale? How do they develop the muscles to do this kind of work, which is different than taking a month or 3 months to develop a TV campaign. Now you have to do it on a shorter time frame. So I would agree that there's work to be done to help people leverage a new platform, but the demand that we've seen has been tremendous.
And the fact that it's being used as a testing platform, are you comfortable with that? Would you like to break away
from that? Not a testing platform. I think what I would say instead is, we position the platform as a place for you to capture and own moments. And brands have done an extraordinary job of that. If you look at some of the campaigns that ran around the World Cup, brands owned the World Cup in a way that was really unique and really special. The trick is, how do you take those moments where you've learned how to use the platform and now carry that learning forward throughout the course of the year? That transition from episodic investments to an always-on investment, which MasterCard has navigated successfully, it's a big part of why I wanted her to speak to the crowd. That's the next opportunity for us, I think, in the business, and we're making that transition successfully.
And then I want to ask you, just as a humorous bit, I had a fascinating conversation with somebody at Twitter at your headquarters recently, and he told me off the record, I'm not revealing anything here, he said that they've done research and the best time to launch a campaign was Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Tuesday at 2 o'clock. And then I asked him, why is that, Tuesday at 2 o'clock? And he pointed out that people are overloaded with messages. Mondays are very difficult to get through, a day to get through Monday. And Tuesdays after lunch, and most people at 2 o'clock are bored at work or at home if they're at home, and they tend to switch on Twitter and you do get a peek. I don't know if it's relevant or not.
I can't confirm or deny that. I can't say I've looked at the research or done it myself, but you raise a very important point, which is timing matters. You know, you've got a world of people typing in keywords and logging into communities, and you want them to see display ads whenever they may come in. It's a world in which every individual is kind of running on their own schedule. I think on Twitter, you're seeing a different version of the world. The version of the world that we're presenting is, when do communities come together? When is there critical mass? When is it that your message will have the most resonance? In a sense, communities matter. We don't just live in a world of individuals who do their own thing and they don't care about everyone else. The campfire matters, the conversation matters, connections matter. And so timing matters, because you want to know, when are people coming together, what are they talking about, and how can you authentically participate in that conversation as a brand. And so that's also something we work on with brands, is understanding their audience, understanding when they're talking about things that are relevant for the brand.
Shailesh and Virginia Pereira. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Thanks.
And before we go,